What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Tell me something. Have you ever had a great nature scene in front of you or had a sick product that you wanted to capture in detail, but no matter how much you adjust your aperture, you just cannot get the whole thing in focus? Well, today I'll be showing you how to fix that and taking your photo from this to this. That's right, today we're talking about focus stacking. What is it? How do you do it? When do I use it? That's on today's agenda, and at the end of the video, we'll talk about a couple of common mistakes and how to avoid them. So without further ado, let's break it down and roll the intro. So first order of business, what is focus stacking and focus bracketing? Focus bracketing is when you take multiple shots of the same scene at different focal points, typically starting really close to the camera and incrementally increasing the distance until you reach the furthest point away from the camera. You can either change the focus points yourself, or most cameras have a built-in focus bracketing feature now. You can do whatever feels more comfortable and natural to you. The outcome should be really similar if you did it right. If you don't want to take any chances, take the safe bet and let your camera do it for you. We'll look at both ways in this video. Focus stacking, on the other hand, is taking all those images and running them through a software like Photoshop to blend them into one super sharp image, leaving you with a shot that has every little detail in focus. Typically, this method is used in landscape photography, product photography, and macro photography, as these are all categories in which you want the most detail possible. Now I got you interested and you want to go out and try this out for yourself. What are you going to need for focus stacking? Well, you're obviously going to need your camera, preferably one with a self-timer for the shutter release, which most modern day cameras have, and trust me, you're going to need a tripod. There are some situations that you can get away with it handheld if your shutter speed is high enough, but in most case scenarios, you're going to want a tripod. Just makes the whole process a lot easier and one less thing to worry about. Now, I was going to go outside for this video and show you an example outside, but it's been raining all day and I don't really want to get caught up in the rain, so we're just going to make it happen here. Okay, so for this example, I'm just going to grab some things I have laying around. In this case, I'm going to open up my camera bag and just grab two lenses from out of there. So I'm going to set these two lenses up. One's going to be a little bit closer to the camera and one's going to be a little bit further away from the camera. So as you can see here, when I focus on the front one, the back one's going to be out of focus, and when I focus on the back one, the front one's going to be out of focus. The next thing you want to do is just set up your camera on your tripod and get your composition locked in. Okay, so what you see here is the screen on my Canon RP, and for this example, I'm going to set the focus points myself. Now in this case, it's going to be pretty easy. I only really need 2 focus points for each of the objects, so I get both of them in focus. So what we're going to do is really simple. I'm going to throw a 2-second timer on my shutter release, and I'm going to focus on the front lens first and snap a photo. After that, I'm going to focus on the back lens and snap another photo. And when you combine them in Photoshop, this is what the outcome is going to look like. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and set up the in-camera focus bracketing. And you might have to look this up on your camera, how to reach this setting. But for me with the Canon RP, it's going to be in the red menu under the 5th tab, all the way down at the bottom, focus bracketing. You go into that menu, enable focus bracketing, select your number of shots. Now this is obviously going to depend on your situation. For what I'm doing right now, 5 shots is going to be enough. And then you set your focus increments. An important tip here, the lower your f-stop is going to be, the shallower your depth of field is going to be, and the more shots you're going to need to get the whole scene in focus. So if you're using a super low f-stop like f1.8, I would set this down to the lowest setting to narrow. But for my case, 4 is going to be enough for what I'm doing. And what exposure smoothing does is basically the camera will automatically adjust the brightness so all the images look consistent. It smooths out all those little changes in light to give you a more even set of photos. so I would also recommend leaving this on. Now my Canon RP doesn't offer this feature, but some cameras can do the focus bracketing and stacking itself. It'll give you the stacked image right out of camera, so you don't have to go through that whole process of stacking them yourself. But the downside of that is that in most cases you'll get a JPEG and not a RAW, which limits the capabilities of editing the photo in Lightroom later on. If you know that you're not going to edit the photo anyway, or a JPEG is good enough for you, or a JPEG is going to be good enough for what you're doing, then by all means do it in camera, save yourself the extra step. But to anyone who wants to edit their photos, use the RAW photos and then stack them yourselves in Photoshop. And then you're just going to exit out of the menu, go back into your live view, focus on the object closest to you, and then release the shutter. And as you can see, the camera is automatically going to fire off 5 shots, changing the focal plane for each shot it takes. Okay, so when you got your shots, go ahead and import them to Lightroom. As you can see, I have mine all lined up at the bottom, one with the 85mm in focus and one with the 70 to 200mm in focus. And what you're going to do is select both of them, right click one of the images, head up to edit in, go down to open as layers in Photoshop. Now that's going to trigger Photoshop to open up and import both of those images as singular layers into your project. The next step is to select both of those layers, head up to edit, and go down to auto blend layers. Leave stacked images selected because that's what we want in this case. We're not trying to make a panorama, we're trying to stack both of these images into one. And as for the bottom 2 settings, seamless tones and colors and content aware fill transparent areas, leave both of those checked. That's just going to allow Photoshop to do its thing and kind of fill in the blank areas where there wasn't enough information. Now once we hit OK, you can see we get a brand new image with both of the lenses tack sharp. The next thing you're going to do is just save this using Command S, or if you're on a PC, it'll be Control S. And what that'll do is automatically send that photo back from Photoshop back into Lightroom. Now this is where you would usually finish up all your edits, do some masking, cropping, anything like that. But for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to do any of that. So go ahead and just export the photo like you normally would, and you're done. So before we wrap up this video, let's talk about a few common mistakes. Mistake number 1 is not using a tripod. This can lead to misaligned images and therefore ghosting in your final stack. Mistake number 2 is just not getting enough shots. This will make Photoshop have to work harder with its content aware and try to fill in those gaps, and that'll often lead to soft and blurry zones in your photo. Mistake number 3 is not getting large enough focus increments. This can lead to gaps in your focus and result in little spots in the middle of your photo that aren't in focus. And if you're selecting your focus points manually, make sure to overlap those focus points a little bit every time you increase the increment, and stack the images yourself in Photoshop, not in camera, because that leaves you with the raw images and gives you full control while editing those photos. That's pretty much all for me today. Let me know in the comments if you tried this and how it worked for you. Follow me on Instagram and send me what you were able to do with this method. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. And if you know someone that would be interested in focus stacking, make sure to send them this. And let me know in the comments what kind of video you'd like to see next. Until then, happy shooting. I'm out. Peace.